Letter to the Reader. Don't let that title fool you. This is not a polite little welcome note. This is the book putting its hand on the table saying, here's the actual problem baseball keeps dancing around. Because anyone who's spent real time in baseball has seen the thing this section is talking about. You've seen the kid with obvious talent disappear when the game gets loud. You've seen the player who looks like a monster in training and then looks like he borrowed someone's body the entire game. Right? You've seen the pitcher with electric stuff lose it after one bad call. Now, you've seen the hitter who can really swing it get swallowed by the moment. And somewhere in that mess, if you're honest, you probably asked the same question the book asks. What in the hell is actually going on here? Right? That question matters because baseball has been way too comfortable with lazy answers. Right? He just needs confidence. He's in his head. He needs to slow the game down. He needs to relax. It's too emotional. He's got to trust his stuff. Now, here's the thing. Some of those statements are not completely wrong. And that's what makes them so dangerous. They're close enough to sound useful, but shallow enough to miss the actual problem. Again, like the last chapter, it's like pointing at smoke and pretending you understand the fire. Congrats, man. There's smoke. Now what? The letter to the reader is trying to move us past those lazy explanations because the real question is not just why did he strike out? The real question is what changed in him before the strikeout? Right? Why did he walk three guys? When did his tempo shift? When did his breathing change? When did the innings start owning him? The real question is not why did he make that error? It's did the skill fail first or did the system change first? And that's the lens. And once you start seeing baseball through that lens, a lot of things stop looking random. The book says something important here. The player often breaks down before the mechanics do. Right? That's the whole game. The body speeds up, breathing changes, decisions tighten, the face changes, tempo changes, language changes, freedom disappears. Right? Then everybody starts talking about the swing, the mechanics. That's backwards. And it happens consistently every day. The hitter starts rushing. The coach is saying, stay back. The pitcher starts aiming, trying to feel the pitch. Coach says, finish your pitch. The catcher starts leaking frustration. The coach says, you've got to be a leader out there. Infielder boots a ball. Hey, set your feet. Charge the ball. Again, none of these cues are evil, and they're probably even correct in a clean environment. But if the player's internal system is already cooked and overloaded, more information might not help. It might just become another weight on a kid who's already carrying too much. That is one of the main points of the letter to the reader. A lot of what baseball calls a baseball problem is actually a system problem. Not always. We don't need to get cute and pretend mechanics don't matter, right? They do. Mechanics matter a lot. Skill matters. Reps matter. Strength, prep, all of it. Everything matters. But none of it matters if the player cannot access it when the environment gets uncomfortable. Right? That's the uncomfortable truth. Baseball's not just testing skill. It's testing what a player can hold. Okay, that word is everything. Hold. Can he hold a bad call? Can he hold a bad at bat? Can he hold pressure from his parents? Can he hold a coach barking in his ear? Can he hold comparison? Can he hold being over 12? Can he hold the feeling that his future is somehow attached to this weekend? Right? That's what baseball's constantly testing. And that's why this letter to the reader matters so much. It sets the table for the whole book. It says, stop pretending talent alone explains performance. Talent is visible. Stability is tested. And that's the game. The game will find out which one is real. For players, this section's a mirror. Not a cute motivational mirror where you stare at yourself and say, I am confident, I am powerful, and I am a lion. And then you go chase ladders in the dirt for 4 hours. Right? It's a real mirror. The kind that asks, what happens to you when a game stops feeling comfortable? Do you speed up? Do you shut down? Do you start forcing? Do you get defensive? Right? Are you carrying one at bat into the next? You turning one bad inning into a terrible day? Do you start protecting your image instead of competing? Do you need everything to feel good before you can play well? Those are hard questions, but good, hard questions usually have more value than easy compliments. For young players especially, this matters because they're often being taught to chase the wrong proof. Again, swings matter, the work matters, but chasing more swings, more lessons, more data, more video, more velo, more attention or rankings or exposure. Again, there's value to these things. But if all of that gets built on top of the system that can't actually hold the pressure, then all you're doing is putting a bigger engine in a car with really loose wheels. And it looks cool for a minute. And then the thing starts shaking, barely on the highway. And that's what happens to a lot of players. They've got the talent, they got the tools, they've got the training, numbers are there. But when the game gets heavy, their system can't keep the skill available. And that's not a small issue. That is the issue. For parents, this section should sting a bit. Not because parents are the villain. Most parents are trying to help. They drive. They do all the stuff, right? But good intentions do not automatically create good outcomes. Parents need to understand this. Your kid is not only carrying the game, he might also be carrying you. Right? The face, the silence, the investment, the expectations, your time, your fear they're falling behind, your obsession with whether this whole thing is working. And kids feel that. They may not explain it beautifully. They may not sit in a car and say, "Father, I'm experiencing relational performance pressure and it's destabilizing my nervous system." They're not going to do that. Right? No teenager says that, but they feel it. They feel when the car ride home becomes heavier than the actual game. Right? They feel when baseball becomes the family weather system or the main conversation at the dinner table. And that becomes load. Then people wonder why the kid looks tight in the box. Right? He's not just trying to baseball. He's trying not to disappoint an entire ecosystem. That's a lot to swing with. For coaches, the letter to the reader is a challenge. It's saying, are you actually seeing the player or are you only seeing the result? Because good coaches do not just see the swing. They see it all. They see the state. They see the tempo. They see the shoulders. They see the urgency. They see the decision making. They see the overcorrection. They see the exact moment the player stops competing and starts trying to survive. That's coaching. It's not just yelling baseball nouns at kids. Compete, relax, throw strikes, be aggressive. Amazing, right? But what does the player actually do with that? A player under pressure does not always need more language. Sometimes they just need cleaner language, less noise. Sometimes they need better timing. Sometimes they just need a coach who understands that the problem is not the cue. The problem is whether the player has enough internal space to use the cue. And that's a different level of observation. And it's desperately needed in today's game because the modern player is carrying way more than baseball. It's travel ball, showcases, rankings, social media, private for everything. The quiet fear of falling behind. That's not soft talk. That's real. Player can walk into a game already loaded before their first pitch is even thrown. And then he strikes out. Then dad looks disappointed. Coach gives him 3 mechanical thoughts right after. Then he checks his phone, right? Sees another kid. A player can walk into a game already loaded before the first pitch is thrown. Right? Then he strikes out. Then dad's disappointed. Coach gives him 3 mechanical thoughts right after. Right? Then after the game, the kid checks his phone, sees another kid committing. Right? And he tells himself he's behind. Then everybody says, "Hey man, you just need more confidence." No. He needs the adults around him to stop misreading the problem. This is why the line "behavior is data" matters so much. Right? That might be the most important line in the section. Behavior is data. It's not drama. It's not attitude. It's not automatically weakness. It's information. It's data. When a player speeds up, that's data. When a player shuts down, that's information. Right? When they're leaking frustration, when one bad pitch turns into 4 free 90s, when a kid stops being coachable under stress, that is data. When his body language changes before the stat line does, That's data. And once behavior becomes data, coaching gets smarter, parents get smarter, player development gets smarter. Because now we're not just reacting emotionally to what we dislike. We are reading what the system is showing us. That's the shift. And it's a big one. The letter to the reader also makes a serious point about cost. When we misread players, it costs development. It costs trust. It costs relationships. Right? It costs careers. And sometimes it costs kids their love for the game. Right? And that's huge. That line should sit with everybody. Because baseball's got a bad habit of acting like losing love for the game is just part of the grind. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes a kid doesn't lose love for baseball because it's hard. Sometimes he loses love because the adults made the game way too heavy. Every failure becomes a referendum on who he was. Sometimes he loses love because he was constantly corrected but rarely understood, right? Sometimes he loses love because nobody noticed the system was breaking until the performance finally collapsed. That is not development. So this section matters because it gives us a better lens. A lens for understanding why players break down. A lens for seeing what baseball is actually testing. A lens for separating visible talent from usable performance. A lens for reading behavior more accurately. A lens for understanding why some players keep getting better while others slowly disappear under the weight of the modern game. And that is the whole point of the EQOS, Emotional Intelligence Operating System. It's not trying to make baseball softer. It's trying to make baseball more accurate. Huge difference. Standards still matter. Accountability still matters. The work still matters. But if you're going to hold a player accountable, you better know what you're actually looking at. The question is not, why isn't this player tougher? The better question is, what is this player carrying, and what happens to his system when the game applies pressure? Okay, that question changes everything. And yeah, it's a longer question. It takes a little bit more thought. But for the player, it creates self-awareness. For the parent, it creates better support. For the coach, it creates better intervention. For the organization, better development. So once you can see the system underneath the performance, you stop getting fooled by the surface. You stop calling every struggle confidence, right? Every breakdown mechanics. You stop calling every emotional player soft. You stop acting shocked when the signs were there 3 innings earlier. You start coaching what is actually changing. And that's where better development starts. Not with louder language, not with more panic, not with another cue piled onto an overloaded kid. Better development starts with better seeing. That's what the letter to the reader is saying. And baseball is not just exposing skill, it's exposing the operating system underneath it. Again, once you see that, you can't unsee it. And honestly, you shouldn't want to, because the game has been telling us the truth the whole time. We just needed better language to understand what it was saying.